Welcome to the Next Step Podcast with Jay.
And Brad. Wait,
I'm Brad.
I'm Jay. I'm an act.
All right.
Love the little ding. Signature.
Show how professional we are.
Yeah. Well, it's more like you start a fight, like bing.
Oh, that's right.
Bell.
Ding, ding.
Yeah,
You're in the ring.
Yeah, you're in the ring now. It's the gauntlet.
Well, we took a little break.
Yep. Well, we did do some recordings.
We
They just
did.
haven't been uploaded yet.
Before we get into that, the last few episodes were your wife.
Yeah.
The other half, the better half.
Better half for sure.
Better half, better.
More sane. Definitely calmer. Definitely more positive. Like I'm positive energy sometimes. She's almost 99.9.
You're just more on the extremes.
Yes.
So you're like
so I'm either one or
way
the
more
other.
positive or way more on the
She
other
just
side.
kinda
She's
like-
just more in the middle range.
Yeah. Like when she's off, it's just more quiet, but she's still happy and doesn't think the world's falling
Did you
apart.
eventually listen to both?
Not the whole thing, but I listened to most of it. I mean, I've listened to most of it, but
Okay, so-
I've gotten amazing reviews from everyone. I sent it to like everyone at work and a bunch of people in recovery. And
What's it like hearing her? Because you've heard, but like,
Yeah.
what's it like listening to her talk about you?
We've had so many, probably early in recovery had been triggering. I hate to use that word, but it would have been like, oh, that's just like, it's a bummer. Like some of the stuff that we've.
What was one thing that you heard that maybe you didn't know before from your pre-conversation? Was there anything?
That's what I was getting at is like before that would have been a lot, but where we are in our relationship, which I talked about and I know she talked about, we've had so many like more open than we've ever been. And so that's why it wasn't too bad. Like it was cool. It was just cool to listen to. I just, work right now for the first time in my adult life is more busy than it's ever been. I feel like consistently.
I didn't
like
even see you for a week.
Yeah. Like I set, like I wanted to listen to it. I'm like, okay, I'm going to do it. And then from the minute I wake up till the minute I go to bed, it's like nonstop phone calls. And so I've had it on my dock. I can't even finish anything right now.
Yeah.
So, but I love it. And the reviews, like I didn't even know there's some people at work that listen to it that were pretty stoked about it and who are going through personal stuff too with their families and life's challenging and hard. And they're like, dude, that really helped. And other people send it to other people and other couples that they know. And Lexi's just got such a unique way. Her just like mine or anyone else's, like the growth is, I mean, it's been a decade now, but where she's at is at a whole nother level.
I'd say both of you. I mean, it's so commendable to both be that open.
Yeah.
It was almost like couples therapy, but for the public to see.
Yeah. That's kind of how I was telling someone that the other day. I'm like, we did our 12 steps. So I started the meeting at work, a 12-step meeting, using the church's manual, the ARP manual. And when we covered step 12, that's what I talked about. I was just like, hey, this is the ultimate service, I think, or when you get to that higher level of your recovery or when you've done the steps and you've been kind of emancipated from your shame in your past. Think about that word, emancipated. So you're like released from that. The ultimate step is to break anonymity and to go out there and to share with other people like willingly, which is not easy to do in the beginning, but once again, just trust the process. Don't do it when you're not ready, but when it just felt natural, and it's always felt natural. And every time we do it, like when she left recording with you, like I didn't even know because I was just busy once again with work. And then she's like, oh yeah, we were going to record. I'm like, oh, rad. Whenever we're done and when we were done the last two times, even when I was sick, when we went up to LA, we'll get into that.
Yeah.
But like every time I'm done and we're done, I'm like, I told you this. I'm like, this is what I feel like I'm supposed to be doing. And I feel that at work too. I feel that in certain places of my life, but it's such a great feeling of peace in a chaotic world, if that makes sense, to know you're like, okay, there's something bigger here. And even though we may not see the fruits of it immediately, when you have people reach out or even just when we're done, it's what's cool is it's actually before people even comment. It's when we're just done in here.
When we're done, we're like, that's pretty good.
That was like
good use of time.
Like so much of our time is filled with selfish things or like, work tasks or whatever. So to be able to do something just because like no one's asking us, kind of like the 12-step meetings, like starting them. Yeah. Anyways. So I love it.
That's what inspiring for the 12 steps is that 12th step and going out and helping people.
Yeah.
So.
And hear Lexi like share once again, I can't commend her enough. Like she's amazing and she's grown more than most will ever probably grow in their life. Like I've just seen her from day one. We were both so young. I mean, we got married at normal in LDS culture, but still like 24 and 25. Now I have 24 and 5-year-olds working for me. I'm like, don't get married. Like I'm thinking in my head, like these people can barely like function on an 8-hour schedule, let alone get married and have kids. We got pregnant right away. Like and life happened. I went into college, like all that stuff. And
but you wouldn't be where you are now without all that.
No, 100%. It's so stoked that it happened because where she's at today is amazing. It's pretty amazing. It's just amazing to watch.
Well, that was awesome. Yeah, we had great reviews.
Super
so
stoked.
if you do us a favor, we've started doing these on YouTube. We have some camera equipment here. We've got a great producer working on it. But most all of our listeners are still on audio. So if you could do us a favor, like
Go check it out.
we'll go there and then this sounds so cheesy, but like you have to like and you have to subscribe and they like comments.
Yeah.
Because then it can share it with other people. So you can help other people get the message by doing that.
Yeah. So it's cool to send messages to people separately, but like also go on there and like it.
Yes.
And
so even if you don't watch the video, get on there, like, subscribe.
on YouTube.
Because if we get, I think it's 1,000, whatever, then YouTube can start dropping us some money to help pay for some of his equipment. We're not trying to get rich on it or even try to make money, but like that'd be kind of sweet.
We're doing well with solar.
But yeah, so last week it was 2 weeks ago, whatever. Like you've got a clean bill of health, right? Congratulations.
Yeah. Thanks. I had diverticulitis. That was
So the last few recordings, it was a time bomb ticking whether you're gonna like push pause and run to the bathroom.
Yeah, it was pretty intense. So in December, I woke up right before Christmas. I woke up in the middle of the night, 3 a.m. We had our favorite sushi and a place here in Laguna Hills. And I woke up at 3 a.m., thought my appendix had bursted because I had so much pain in my lower abdomen. And I've had friends have that surgery. And that's the only thing I could think of. That or Lexi finally decided to put me in with stabbed me or shot me. I just didn't hear the fire. It was excruciating. I managed to fall back asleep somehow, but only slept another hour or two and then was sweating and had chills. And it was just like, oh, something serious. Drove myself to the hospital and, they put me right on like pain, like had to give me an IV. I could barely stand and walk, and driving myself was probably not safe. Got there and they thought same thing. You probably have a tendonitis. We have to get you in a CT scan and then we'll do surgery right away because if that fluid leaks in you, it's pretty bad. So they pull me in there, bring me back. The pain med. So I want to talk about this. So they gave me fentanyl. I've never actually had fentanyl. Ever, at least that I know.
That's like all over the news.
This is like, obviously it's not car fentanyl and it's like not produced in China, but it is fentanyl. And they gave me an IV of it. And here's my like take on that. I was in excruciating pain, and usually a painkiller, even in an IV, doesn't.
Is it normal? Is that a normal? Because don't they usually do opiates? Is fentanyl an opiate?
Yeah,
it's a synthetic opiate. Right?
Synthetic opiate.
Okay.
So
this is a newer thing they're doing?
So now I kind of understand the psychology of it, I guess, of what I'm trying to say is they gave it to me in an IV because they were giving me fluids right away. And
took the pain away.
It was the craziest thing. I mean, I've had an IV of painkillers before, and opiates or like a hydrocodone or even whatever they give you in the IV. I felt that before. This one was just straight up. Like I went from like in fetal position in the hospital bed. They couldn't even touch me to do to try to figure out what was going on. I'm like, you got to stop. Like this is excruciating. I was grunting, and they gave it to me, and it was just boom, instantly.
1 second.
It was the quickest relief I've ever felt, even from oxys and all these other things in an IV. This was straight up, like instantaneously. But here's what I noticed. It was instant relief. I'm like, oh, this is great. Then they can do the exam, right? They can like push on my stomach and do what they need to do. He left, and within 5 minutes, it was worn off. Which would play to the like why it's so addicting because the pain came right back.
So great.
The relief,
but then the relief, fleeting.
Yeah, and especially when you have real pain, it was instant. It was like up, and within 10 minutes gone. And so when they finally, I'm pressing the button, like, you need to get back in here because any minute I'm going to start shaking again. I had like these fever chills. And when they finally came back in, like an hour later, of course, the pain was excruciating again. This time I said, I don't want that. Just give me like like something mellower. Like, and they're like, yeah, it'll take a little bit longer to go into effect, but it'll last longer. And sure enough, they gave me a less strong pain reliever, right? Like a hydrocodone or whatever, like a Vicodin, but in the IV. And it was more gradual, so it took maybe 30 minutes to kick in, but it lasted the whole rest of the day. You know what I mean? And obviously, I'm like sober, so that's why it lasted. Back in the day, that wouldn't have done anything. It wouldn't have lasted very long. But the contrast difference, no wonder one can be, because it was euphoria instantly.
So you understand the abuse of chasing.
Yeah, because as soon as it relieves, as soon as it goes back down, you instantly, if you're taking it for emotional pain, it would do the same thing. You feel euphoria, and then it would take you right back down to reality.
Well, that's what you read stories of when people hear of overdoses.
Yeah.
It actually, they say sometimes that's what people drive. They go, I want what that guy had.
Yeah.
I just won't take as much.
Yeah.
Because that means it was good.
Yeah. It's a sick thing where we see someone like fall over from an OD that like if you're a true addict, like most people are like, oh, I want that. Scary. But that's only because like the way it works, the medicine. Well, yeah, that and the medicine stopped work. Like the effect goes away. Like you're just chasing. You're chasing that, and it wears off. You get a tolerance to it, and so you need stronger and stronger and stronger amounts. Like I just had a guy call me, and we talked about his recovery, and he's just new to recovery, and he's been on opiates for a couple of years now for legit back pain and things like that. But when he told me the amount he was taking, that was a big deal to him, and he felt like really shameful for abusing him. I'm like, dude, that's like not even a fifth of what I was taking, which is not. It's just
all relative, right?
It's all relative. Like good for him. I mean, I'm glad. But anyways, I thought that was interesting. So anyways, found out I had diverticulitis. I had an infection in my intestines and colon. It was swelling up, and so they had to put it. Actually, a worse situation because it lasted 3 months. Antibiotics, 4 different rounds, IVs, pills. Like it was horrible. And then had to get a colonoscopy, and I finally got a clean bill of health. But they were worried I had Crohn's disease. It was weird for
So midway through that, we got invited to go up to the recording studio of Midnight Mormons.
Yeah.
And it was like a 2-hour drive through the heart of LA.
All the way to North LA. Yeah, it's a long
And how many times did we stop for the bathroom?
Dude. So I had to,
twice, right?
The one time at least twice. So when we finally went to go do that recording, I had just started my protocol before
you're supposed to get colonoscopy the next day.
So the first 24 hours, you're just taking laxatives. Yeah. And I hadn't started drinking this stuff yet till that night. So I'm like, hey, I'm down to do it, but there's a chance that we might have pressed pause like 15 times. And I'm like, I didn't think it would work because I had not been eating very much. I lost like 30 pounds. I mean, I lost quite a bit of weight real quick and didn't have a lot in me. So I didn't think it would do much, but sure, like right when you picked me up, right before that, within that hour, it was go time.
I was glad you're there. It went well.
But it went well.
So we'll share that out when it comes out.
I hope it sounds good because I was actually thinking before I came here, I was not in the state of mind. I was just so much nerves with the colonoscopy, what was going to happen. And
I'll take it as good because sometimes the guests get interrupted quite a bit on that show, and I felt like we just let us talk and share our story and our history and stuff like that. So that was pretty cool. And then we talked like an hour after recording. Yeah, they just asked us more questions. We're like, we got to bounce. Like we got a long drive home.
Like 2-hour drive.
But that reminds me.
Those guys are super cool.
The topic was praying. So they're irreverent defenders of the faith, I would say.
Yeah, affected.
Irreverent apologist.
Yeah,
little more irreverent than the white shirt and tie style.
Mm-hmm.
But there seems to me when you're seeking recovery or you're in that phase, like you're very vulnerable. And we talked about how like anti-Mormons tend to prey on that vulnerability as opposed to trying to shore them up. But this topic of praying on when you're weak was on my mind. And then I saw this video on, I think it was on Facebook ad. So let's watch this and then let's listen to it and let's get your real-time reaction. Tell me if you've seen this before.
Is it going to come on the TV?
No.
Okay.
But the audience will see it.
Okay.
The dude, the last one, bragging about how hot he is and how rad his wife was or something like that. Bluetooth on.
Yeah. While we were looking at that, those guys were super cool up there at Midnight Mormon. Like you had showed me their stuff a year before that and watched a lot of it. They're pretty cool guys. For like just normal dudes, just like us, just super into the faith. Like
they're young. Well, there's some young ones and
they're probably around my age, right?
They know their stuff.
Like in their late 30s, maybe early 40s, mid 40s. They were at
Quaku's like 20s. I think.
Oh, he's really young. Okay.
Yeah.
Are they all that young? The other one had kids.
Quaku's like early 20s because he's like
super passionate.
Yeah, and then the other Brad is probably late 20s, and then the other guy.
And we watched him have a debate with.
Yeah, the one before was wild.
With the beard.
Talk for a minute on camera here.
Yeah.
Let's put the camera on Jay. I'm gonna go see if we can fix this.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it was a cool experience going up there and meet with those guys. It's definitely a rough last few months with the diverticulitis and having the health problems and having to take the painkillers on and off for my stomach for those couple weeks. But it's nice to finally get that.
I'm not going to beat around the bush.
Oh, here we go.
People don't follow my video.
It went away.
Look, I'm not going to beat around the bush. People don't follow my videos because I'm cool. They don't follow me because I got a beautiful wife. They don't follow me because I got a great life. They follow me and they click on my things because they have a problem in their life that they just don't know how to solve. What is that problem? The problem is drinking too much. So if that sounds like you, if you're that man that is actually clicking on here because you want to solve this drinking problem, then I put something together for you. It's a short video. It's free. Look, a lot of the people say, oh, this should be free. So I put together something right now that can help you get relief. It can help you get to the bottom of this. It'll show you where to start. Sure, it's not the end all be all, but it's going to be a starting point for.
You seen that guy before?
Yeah.
I don't even know his name.
I clicked him on Instagram.
Yeah,
he popped up on my thing when I had posted some stuff about addiction.
You guys like good looking guy, all buffed out.
Alpha looking man.
Fully alphaed out.
Alpha, yeah. Not a beta.
So it caught my eye.
Yeah.
I watched.
Yeah, because he's like got a backwards hat. He's got the, he looks the
like
part.
you right now.
Yeah, same, similar. Got the beard, the whole thing.
Wait, are you sure it's not you?
Yeah, no, not me.
You're good looking. You got a hot wife.
I love the subtle brag. They don't follow me because I'm all these things. I'm not saying I'm those things, but that's why. I am those things, but that's what I took it as. But listen, that's like shock, right? Because usually when you see addiction, you see this cheesy video of Tommy was this way.
Real
now
talk.
Tommy, like real talk. It appeals to that AA. And when you go to an outside of the church meeting, an AA meeting, which I've been going to a bunch lately, and I went through a few over the holidays, but the guys they're very similar to that guy.
Okay.
They look pretty rough. Yeah, they've been, there's rough stuff out there.
So I dove in a little bit. I'm like, hey, this is interesting. And
what'd you find out?
I found out that
He said it's free.
Well, that video to watch is free, and then they try to get he gets a sign up for a program. But my gist, I could be wrong.
Program?
My gist is it's like you join a Facebook group, you pay $5,000, and you get to be access to this private Facebook group, and they teach you how to drink in moderation. And from my experience with you is if you're really out of control with your alcohol,
if you're a true alcoholic,
it
even says that in the big book.
Isn't it appealing though to go, dude? Because I remember you saying I just have a quantity problem. I don't have a.
Well, yeah, that's the crux of every addict or alcoholic is in their mind. They want to be able to drink like a gentleman. They want to be able to use the pills as prescribed. They want to be able to just take, whether it's pot, hit at night and go to bed. You know what I mean? But or even, with the pornography users, probably the same thing. I just want to use it when I get that urge or this, that, and the other. But it ends up just, you can't.
So that's what seemed predatory to me is that's what I want. I want to be able to drink. Yeah. I'm out of control, but I want to be able to control and drink like a gentleman. Oh, this guy's going to show me how to do it. I'm going to show my wife that I'm doing it. Drop $5,000. And then I don't know how accurate these other things are, but some of the reviews of it were
it's probably all just video chat.
And if you review it, you see a bunch of affiliate links, dudes that are in the program trying to get you to sign up. Hey, I'll review it,
and then click oils.
I don't know. So if anyone has interest on this,
like a pyramid,
I don't know. It's pretty new.
Okay,
but it's
smart. That's a huge need. So the demand is there.
Business wise, it seemed brilliant.
Yeah.
But that's crazy. Kind of sad.
But like you just said,
if you were an alcoholic to be told something that's, if you're just.
What's the one thing that every alcoholic, the trouble, I have a buddy that I work with, right, who's been in and out of the program for the last 6-7 years, going through a divorce right now, and he's in a good headspace, right? He's been going to meetings and being consistent back at ARP and going to AA meetings almost every day. He's got a new sponsor, Xander, so who's been on the podcast before. Hopefully we'll get him on the video version now.
Yeah.
But he was challenging him to go to 90 meetings in 90 days, and I've seen the big difference. And the other day, he put it on a text thread that I have for guys at work and girls at work that are in recovery that I've created. And he wrote in there something about his friend, about how he's jealous of some other buddy who's not a member of the church that can drink and smoke weed and still have a mortgage and have a job and hold his life together. And he's like, I long to have that. And I just went so hard, and I found myself going so hard. And afterwards, I apologized, but it actually was, it's like, nah, that's what I needed to hear. But it was such the addict brain of wanting to drink like a gentleman. I don't look, even if I could now, but this took time. When I was younger, I would always say if I could drink casually, I probably would. Or if I could use pills, I probably would, and then put them away because they can enhance life, all this stuff. But now in recovery, 10 years later, anyone I see doing that, it's not that they're alcoholics or addicts, if someone has a casual drink, but I'm like, what are you trying to escape from? You know what I mean? I don't look at that and long for that anymore. To me, the guy who comes home and drinks every night, even though he can still get up at 6 a.m. and go to his job, he's missing a huge chunk of his life, right? Of his kid's life, of his family's life, because when you get inebriated, even to the slightest degree, you don't have consciousness at the same level. Mm-hmm. And so now I find myself in a decade, I'm like trying to do things to enhance consciousness. And like I get NAV drips, I get IV drips. Like I'm trying to stem cells, whatever I can to actually be awake more and be like, and when I say awake more, but like just to maximize health, the opposite of drinking poison every day. Like, can you imagine just sipping on some poison?
Isn't that the whole, I mean, I'm the normie, right?
So he's pretty predatorial
Well, I thought he was predatorial because it's like, that seems so appealing.
Yeah. If he's done any research or have any friends of the program, that's the one thing they all want.
Yeah, so
that's what I was getting at by saying my buddy.
You're selling them something that they want, but it's not a real thing. It seems like.
Yeah, not if you're a true alcoholic. No way. It even says in the big book, like normal people, or it says in the Joe and Charlie tapes that I listened to. It's a great like thing on AA and history of AA. It says normal people don't they don't count how many drinks they had. Like, you know what I mean? Like, how many did I have? Like, should I have another one or should I not? Like, normal people, when they take a sip, they feel themselves getting inebriated, they put it down. And they're like, okay, I need to like go. Alcoholics can't do that. There's a phenomenon that happens in the brain. The craving happens. Delayed effect usually happens. And same thing with like pills is the same thing.
So good. That brings it on to here. So like the proponents of his program on the thoughts were like, who always bash on AA and 12 steps is like, dude, I don't want to go to some church and tell me how much of a horrible person I'm.
All my friends I grew up with, that's how they are.
And you mentioned this emancipated from shame. You don't feel ashamed by that. So when you say you're an alcoholic or you're an addict, do you feel shame in that?
No.
So I think that's what I come to learn is like when people say that, they're not giving themselves an excuse to be an idiot.
Yeah.
They're not.
It's a way of being accountable at a bigger scale, like macro scale.
That's what I've learned. So, but there's what is it? You've had these people that are like, they're not willing to admit that.
Yeah.
Where's that?
That's how I know
where's the difference from you, where you're at, and where someone else who's saying, dude, I don't want to have that label on me.
Yeah.
I don't want.
Yeah, just go to church. I'm just going to get back into the church and the scriptures, or.
I just don't want that eternal shame of having that label on me, where I don't feel that, or get a sense you have shame on it. You're just like, I've used this to empower me.
Well, it all comes back from, that's a great question. It all comes back from hitting, whether you've hit rock bottom or not. If you've hit rock bottom and your life is truly unmanaged and become to the point, and once again, there is no one rock bottom. Everyone chooses it. And the way that it was put, and we were talking to someone, I was actually talking to someone today about this, like some people have to do more research, right, for themselves. They have to dig a little deeper, right, to find the bottom. And when we find the bottom, we actually just put down the shovel and we start going up instead of down. But you choose it. But it is, so I do believe you choose it, but it is also a gift. Like there's a moment of clarity. There's divine intervention for sure. Because most of us that took where we were at and that we said, this is my bottom. I'm not going any deeper. I'm putting the shovel down and I'm going to start going that way as hard as, even if the light was just so dim at the top that I'm probably not going to even get there.
But I'm going that direction.
But yeah, so just there is a divine intervention that for sure happens because most of us, when we had that moment of clarity, we call it, we were still inebriated or we were still on something or our life was so chaotic that there was pure fear and anxiety, but we had this like glimmer of hope that comes in. But and we just talked about this in the meeting last week on Wednesday night, but in the ARP meeting was that it only came after step one. Right? Like fully admitting that your life was, so step one is getting honest 100%. So the people that when they come to us, if they're like someone, the wife calls you or the parents or whatever, and they're like, hey, my son or my brother or my friend, right? Or my husband or my wife or whatever needs help. And I'll talk to them, or an alcoholic in recovery, we'll talk to them. We know right away who's actually ready and who's not, just by, are they willing to go to a meeting? Because that's usually the first thing that comes up is like, no, I'm like, just like you said, like, I'm not going to the meeting.
Okay, so
like,
what's the first thing? If I call and I'm like, dude, hey, my wife told me to call you.
I've been dealing with this for a while, but I have like I have a near injury. And so this is how I've been taking this. It's like, cool. Listen, I don't really care how you got here. Clearly your life's not going the way you or your spouse or your loved ones want, otherwise you wouldn't be talking to me, right? For the most part. And let's go to the solution. Here's what you need to do. Are you willing to do this? If you're willing to do this and that and this.
What is this and that?
Are you willing to go to a meeting?
Yeah.
Okay. So
how far away is it?
Yeah. Well, mine's a local one. It's on Zoom or it's this. I'm like, cool, go to AA.com. Right. And I don't care, go to NA. I don't care if listen, if you don't have a church one, you need to get to some meeting. A 12-step meeting. Are you willing to go to 90 meetings in 90 days? Are you willing? What? Think about it. That's a big commitment.
Yeah.
I mean, and they got every excuse in the world. When you're ready, you'll do whatever it takes. When you're not ready, one meeting a week sounds just like treacherous because you're not ready. Even like I talk about this a lot. When I went to my first meeting, it was just to manipulate Lexi and come back. I actually didn't believe I had a problem. And it took weeks of going for me to finally get, and even then, and then Lexi came back. We talked about this before, but once she came back, we were back together. We were living in Whittier in LA. She's like, well, I want to go to that meeting again. And I was like, oh, I didn't really want to go. You know, I'm like, man.
You thought you'd fixed everything.
Yeah, I fixed it. And I'm like, well, we're good now. Like, we're back. And luckily, she, once again, pulled me to go. And then once we realized after going weeks after weeks after weeks and months, was like, it's the only reason why I have a life today. Like a true, everything in my life is because of that foundation of committing to a group, getting honest with the group, and then doing whatever the group tells me to do. That's not like, I mean, in the beginning, you literally, it's not about your desire to get sober. It's about your willingness to take direction. So that's the one thing that sets people apart. Going back to the question is, are you willing to do whatever it takes or not? Or whatever you're doing is not working.
So
clearly.
The critics of 12 steps are like, dude, I don't want to have that label. And like, I don't want these dudes to tell me what to do.
Some of the stuff is like warranted. Like some of the stuff I get, like if you go deep into psychology and identity and like tying to your problems, like obviously there is some psychological stuff there.
Because I think the critique is, if you're still an a-hole to people, but you use, but I'm an alcoholic as an excuse, that's not what recovery is.
Some people look at it as like, oh, I'm going to go there. What are we just like bending our it's a bitch.
Well, there's that. I think the critics of it are like, but that's my cousin says he's an alcoholic.
Yeah, they know someone.
But he's still a piece of ass.
Yeah. He's a pain in the butt. Yeah. And he's sober now, but I don't want to be like that guy. So once again, there's all this pre-notions of what it will or won't be. Mm-hmm. But once again, if God, your family, relatives, whatever, the universe, whatever you believe in, finally put someone in your life that is in recovery
and has paid this dude $5,000 and he'll fix me.
Yeah, I wish it was that easy because that would actually be easier than committing to go to a 12-step program and sharing what we do now, but like in a group in the beginning is hard. This is easy now. Like this is just like talking. But in the beginning, man, I was a closed door. And the reason why I didn't love myself. Like, you know what I mean? Like going back to like I said, like there's so much shame from all the things you've done wrong in your life, which is crazy because I still make mistakes now. But because of the 12-step program, I've found this like, I'm okay. Like this is why I'm here. This is why we're here. This is why the temple video has what it has. This is why the scripture has. It's why the narrative of almost every religion has why we're here. Like it's almost very similar. Everything's here to like learn and grow.
Right.
So they release that shame. But in the beginning, when you've done some heavy stuff, like the last thing you want to do is say out loud that you're weak, because that's what you perceive it as, is I'm weak, I'm broken. The rest of the world isn't, right? So once again, you've separated, your ego's involved again. I'm less than, I'm terminally unique. And then, by the way, like, here's everything I've done wrong. You know, like no one wants to do that. That's not a comfortable thing in the beginning.
Have you found it easier to go to a meeting where you like know people or go to where like you're a stranger? Is it just different?
Yeah, most people would never want to step foot in a place where they think they're going to run into someone.
Okay,
but once again, I mean, now that where I'm at, it's easy. Like,
how to overcome that excuse maybe is like, as you said, you go to AA.com, NA.com, SA.com, ARP.LDS.
To me, it does.
You can go. You can drive 30 minutes if you really want to, and go where no one knows where you are. You have complete anonymity.
100%. You could totally do it. You could drive 5 hours away, and odds of you seeing someone, right, are probably slim. But the cool thing is it's all about your perspective, because what it should do is when you see another person in these meetings that you've recognized, sometimes they're famous people. If you go to some of the AA meetings here in Laguna Beach, you will see famous surfers, famous actors.
Canyon Club, right off Laguna Canyon Road.
Oh, you're going to see some Iron Man might be there. You never know who will be there, right? Like some famous rappers, like you never know who will be there, which is pretty amazing. And if you're ready, you'll see that as like, oh, if they can do it, I can do it. I don't have to have so much shame. Like in the church, especially when more people would come in.
Well, you mentioned going there and you saw like former bishops, or like people who you looked up to spiritually.
Business owners, doctors, like all these people, like, or even just kids that were in the singles ward now that are married, moved on. I thought they were perfect. Back when I was using and struggling, they seemed perfect. And now they're showing up with the porn addiction or showing up with this addiction. And what it does is like, oh yeah, see dude, like, Satan, whatever, like my shame, my pain, whatever it is, my pain bodies, whatever you want to call it, or have told me that I'm unique and terminally unique, but I am just a person, and this person is just a person, and they found a solution that doesn't work and is terminal. It can be terminal if you don't correct it, but they're choosing to surrender. Anyway, if anything, in the beginning, that's how you think, is like, I don't want to see anyone, but then after a while, it should actually relieve the shame. It should help. And that's why I've been so big about being open when you like challenge me to do it all the time in the beginning, and 10 years ago, 8 years ago now, is because it's like, yeah, if someone would have shared, I really do feel this way. Like I could have bypassed a ton of pain and like a ton of things. And if I would have had this handed to me when I joined the church, and I already had, I still would have been a good person because I already had trials throughout my life from 19 and under. To go out there and experiment more and do more research for another 8 years was rough. I mean, that was not fun. I could have died. I should have died many times. I mean, I don't look at that as it's definitely, I was lucky. I don't look at it much more than that. But I guess what I'm trying to say is like, I wish this was handed to me in the beginning. And so that's why I'm so open about it. And I think most people, when they finally get real recovery and they have that aha moment, it talks about a spiritual awakening or you've done the steps completely and you've kind of been emancipated from that shame. Most people start to do this. They start to like, maybe not at this scale, but they're going to start talking to people. They'll share it at work. They'll show it with people.
You don't have to break anonymity.
Yeah, if you don't want to.
You don't have to.
It is what it is.
But
I do think it's natural.
I'll close this one with, you know who John Wayne Freeman is?
Yeah.
And you know who Steve-O is?
Yeah.
Do you know who Sterling Spencer is?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
The curly hair with the glasses, the funny guy.
So John, you haven't been watching the podcast, but John Wayne Freeman drove to Florida.
I saw some clips from it, but I haven't seen the whole thing.
But and Freeman talks. These are like surf comedians, and everyone probably knows who Steve-O is, who is a raging drug addict, alcoholic.
So cool. It's like cool to be sober.
And
now.
your wife and my wife is not a fan of John Wayne Freeman.
Yeah,
but
they just think he's silly.
I think
we love him. All men, all guys love him.
But he's just a comedian, right?
Yeah, he's just being funny.
Actually, what's funny is because speaking of comedy, Sterling Spencer got like pro surfers got mad at him.
Really? Because he tells stories that are fake.
Fun of him. Well, now it's like all fake stories, but he makes fun of them. And he's like, look, people don't understand comedy. He's like, I make fun of the people I like.
Yeah.
My best friends, I tease because they're my best friends.
Yeah.
He's like, I look up to Kelly Slater, so I tease him.
All the time.
Because I think he's like the GOAT.
Yeah. They got mad at him?
Yeah, so he's
I got to hear that podcast.
Yeah, it's pretty funny. But anyways, John Wayne Freeman.
He got sober, right?
Yes, because he says he was doing something for Surfer Magazine whenever picked up Steve-O.
And it wasn't known that he had a problem.
No, he picked up Steve-O in his car, and they were going to record in the car, one of those shows.
Oh, yeah, the van.
No, it was his Merc-mobile.
He was going to do a recording with him.
Yeah.
Not Steve-O's show in the van.
Correct.
Or the
Steve-O was going on his thing.
Okay.
And then sits down, because they were talking about, because Steve-O's he loves surfing. He loves a skater, but he's really getting adult learning surfing. And first thing he asked him was hey, how's your sobriety going? First time he met him. And then he's like, Freeman, he just broke down. He's like, for an hour of our drive, we didn't talk anything about surf. We talked about sobriety. And wow. Steve-O got me sober. Wow. And he just spent an hour of his time. He's like, this guy is super busy. He just wanted to talk through and talk about tools of sobriety. Yeah. And he's like, he's the one that got me on the path. And then he talked about all the stuff he missed with his wife and his kids and all that stuff.
Yeah, so even though he wasn't sounds like he was functional, had a job, had a wife, had a house, had a mortgage.
Yeah. He'd already been Instagram famous on the comedy stuff.
Yeah, big in surfing to a degree, yeah.
But Steve-O somehow saw something.
When you were sharing that, that's why I was thinking it's so important, and it's hard now in my phase of life with just how busy life is. But even when you say that, I'm how I think about all the dudes that came into my life, and even some of these AA guys that I'm starting to get to know that are surfers at our local break and been playing cards, kind of hanging out with them, more. Even though we're going and playing cards, there's one guy specifically that challenged me all the time. So it's hey, dude, how's your recovery? Hey, in the meeting that you're doing, does anyone else have time, or are you the only one with time? It's good that you do that. It's good service, but you need to be going to meetings where people have more time than you, so they can call you out and you're, what. And I'm like, oh, wow. And at first good. It was I felt that way, but that's ego. And I'm like, oh no, he's cares. That's a good thing.
Right.
If I really love someone, that's what I would do too. And you remember me doing that all the time to people. Mm-hmm. And so what I was getting at, it's so important for us in life in general. And that's why, once again, we're so lucky. Those of us that are addicts that found our life in a complete shambles, because then we find the program, then we find true people that come into our lives that are there's nothing to gain. If anything,
it's a lot more work if you're now I got to spend a lot of time with this person.
These people are willing to dump everything and just come and help you at any time of day and night.
It's kind of nice. People do call me sometimes. I'm like, hey, okay, here's what you're going to do.
Yeah.
You're going to call Jay.
No.
But I would go the same thing. I'm like, all right,
it's important to have dudes like that in your life.
You need to go to a meeting and you're going to share.
Yeah.
And you're going to say you need a sponsor. Yeah. You're going to stay after. You're going to talk to find a sponsor.
Don't run off.
And then you can call me after.
And then let's talk about it.
Let's talk about it. That's all I can
That's
do.
how important it is. So I just talked to this guy that I hadn't talked to since for the singles ward days, me and Xander, and we just had a phone call with him, and he's from over here originally, but struggling but once again, there's no shame. Like I could feel the shame in the voice because that's what I know what that's like. But it's like, hey, dude, cool. That's why you're here. Cool, awesome. Here's the cool thing is there's 100% guaranteed solution. So unlike other terminal diseases that you don't pick, right? This one you kind of choose. So it's the irony there. But if you choose to surrender all the way, it's 100% curable in the sense of like you can live in remission of it. As far as curable, like I definitely wouldn't try to pick up a drink again and see how that works. But once again, because you get to not because I'm scared of it or like anything, you get to a point where I don't look at the casual drinkers as someone that I'm jealous of anymore at all. Like I don't want that in my life.
Some church members are. I used to be.
Yeah, of course. Well,
like, what am I missing out on,
dude?
You've cured me of that.
If I didn't have the extreme chaos for the majority of my life, then for sure I would too. And even when I'm in my not right mind, I do. Like, you know what I mean? But when Jay's in like in the zone, I don't want to be inebriated from anything. Even though you may have pain or you may have this, you may have that, like we're supposed to feel feelings. And the cool thing about feelings, it's like the tide, they change all the time and it's consistent, meaning it changes. And so don't put too much weight in them. But some feelings, if they come back regularly, it means you need to correct something and that's a good thing. And it's important to have dudes like that in your life. Like Steve-O changed that guy's life all because Steve-O broke his anonymity. Like imagine if Steve-O was like, hey, I keep this on secret because I am famous. Think of the lives that wouldn't be changed.
Right. And then even the ripple effect of both these guys talking about it.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah. Like it's the drop. The lie is, and I've talked about this last time, is like where the phase I was in for the last couple of years is that my actions don't affect other people. Of course, Satan wants to tell me that. Like if you look at it from a spiritual standpoint, because then not only will it's a true principle no matter what. Good, whether I choose good or bad, there's a ripple effect, right? If you drop a rock in a puddle of water, no matter what, the ripple happens for the good or the better, right? Or for the worse, right? Yeah. And so, of course, the lie would be that my actions don't affect others because then I'll go around unconsciously making decisions, right? Subconscious decisions that do affect, usually for the negative. When I'm being conscious and being, like intentional about my like things and what I want to do, I go around doing better things. You know what I mean? I'm more charitable. I'm more nice to people. I say sorry more because I still have all these character defects. I still like am way bulldozing at the times with Lexi and friends and whatnot. And I have to go back and say sorry. I was just all hyper, but it's okay to like, just, be that way and we recognize it.
That's a good way to end. Let's end this one. And we got some other ones we're going to throw down here shortly. So
right.
do we have an outro song there, Ab?
Yeah. Don't call that guy. You don't need $5,000. Just come to AA.